Hello. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the public hearing to order. This is the first public hearing on the Stafford budget process. This stages the process in which each of the town departments will present their requests to the Board of Finance as to how much money they would like to spend in the next fiscal year, the 2015 and 2016 fiscal year. You, as members of the public, are invited to ask questions of any of the town department heads and to make comments as to what you feel appropriate budget levels may be. Following this evening, the Board of Finance will be meeting for about the next 6 weeks, at which time we will be reviewing in detail the budgets which have been presented to us. And then in April 20th, we're scheduled right now to announce to the public what our recommendations are as to the budget requests, what we think the budget should be for next year. So that's the process. So I will begin with the Board of Education, and we have the Chairman, Tracy Rummel, and the Superintendent of Schools to make the presentation for the Board of Education.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate the Board of Finance's time this evening. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to everybody for coming out. One of the things that we have heard last year was communication is very important, and we're hoping to start this year with just that. Lots of communication, open communication, and so if you have any comments or questions, we welcome them. If you go on the website, you'll find our emails for myself, Dr. Collins, the other board members, etc. And I just wanted to start by saying that this evening, and thank you. Okay, I guess I'm holding it. Yes, thank you again, everyone. I don't know if you had a chance to see the video at the beginning. Did you know 2014? But it does speak to how rapidly changing our world is. A couple of the statements there were, one, that what students who are freshmen in college are learning in their freshman year is half outdated by the time they're juniors in college. And then there are a number of other statements, of course, about how quickly evolving technology is. There we go. I believe the Board of Finance has a copy of our complete presentation this evening. I will be moving through this pretty quickly. Some of the folks in the audience have already seen this presentation twice, so it's been slightly revised. We'll have a quiz at the end for those of you that are regulars. And then, of course, there'll be an opportunity to ask some questions, as Ed indicated in the beginning. We have organized our budget presentation this year so that it is in sections. Hopefully it's more user-friendly. Again, some of the feedback that we got last year was an appreciation that we were transparent and provided a lot of information, but people didn't know what to do with quite all of that. So we did try to simplify the process, and this presentation is posted on our website. So the organization of the presentation is indicated there on the screen. I always like to start with the mission of Stafford Public Schools because that's what we're about, to prepare our students to assume productive, meaningful, and responsible roles in an increasingly competitive global society. It's our obligation to support and challenge all students and staff to meet or exceed established standards of performance in a safe and secure environment. And the goals of our plan are enumerated below. It's interesting to note that over 50% of the Stafford Board of Education employees are residents of Stafford, 52 actually. In terms of the budget process, it's pretty well streamlined. The first step, schools and departments prepare their budget proposals for submission to me, the superintendent. Then I work with a business manager. For those of you that are not familiar, Sam Adlerstein is our current business manager. He's sitting up here near the front. Say hello to Sam. Step 3 is superintendent and business manager meet with administrators and supervisors to discuss their budgets. Next, the board budget committee meets to review the budget and provide input to the superintendent. Our board budget committee members comprised of Tracy Rummel as chairperson, Tony Frasinelli, and Peter Kowaleski, and we have 2 alternates as well, Earl and Andrea. Did I get that right? No, Sonia. Well, you guys are involved in everything. That's the problem with having a small board of ed. You have to be on 3 or 4 different committees, so I'll see you folks though in another week at negotiations, right? In terms of the budget framework, when we started this process this year, we wanted to be specific and provide some guidance to the administrators. So we worked through, what should our budget represent? First of all, it should support our mission and belief statements. So it should meet our obligation to provide a comprehensive program for students and continue to build on our successes. It should identify creative solutions to address challenges by working together with town officials, community members, students, and staff. Administrators are also directed to start with a level service budget in order to sustain our efforts. Inherent in that is a natural increase in contractual obligations and some of those other kinds of services, but at least let's take a look at where we are. Then we would propose any service increase in critical areas, and these would be offset by trade-offs and additional initiatives that promote efficiency. And of course, we wanted to be mindful of the burden to taxpayers. Our budget also needs to demonstrate that we're planning for the future, and there are criteria for budget analyses, which include safety and school security, mandated services, those that are required to be provided by the Board of Ed, student achievement and opportunities, as well as declining enrollment. And I'm hoping that you folks all got a handout in the back which summarizes our budget. Of course, we would be remiss if we didn't take a moment to take a look at and appreciate our accomplishments and achievements. This is a summary of all the categories. Again, the comprehensive list is actually posted on our school website. Among those, I brought this show and tell, students from our Unified Arts program at the high school actually had a piece of artwork that was selected by the Special Olympics for publication in these note cards. I don't know where you can buy them, but the high school might have a couple extra sets that you're really interested in. But that's the piece that was selected to be included in this box of artwork by Special Olympics. So we're really proud of our students, a number of areas. One of the things that you'll see later in the presentation is that we have been recognized as the 3rd best school district by an independent financial organization called NerdWallet. And that was an article entitled Best School Districts for the Block in Connecticut. Again, we applaud our students and staff for multiple awards and achievements. And I recognize as much as I like to spend a lot of time on this section, I know that we have a lot to get through this evening. So again, I encourage you to take a look at our list on the website. We are proud of our increasing 4-year graduation rates. When I came to Stafford 4 years ago, we had a dropout prevention committee because we were not meeting the expectations of the state or our DIRG. As you can see, this graph shows a comparison of the 4-year cohort and students with special needs there in red, and you can see that we have increasing gains here. As you would expect, with the increase of graduation rates, our dropout rates have decreased significantly. So again, this is one of our great accomplishments here. This is the article to which I was referring, which I had realtors ask me for, in terms of the link on the website. Again, best school districts for your buck in Connecticut. This independent study group actually took a look at housing costs. 30% of the rating was housing costs. Our 2012 CAPT, that's the Connecticut Academic Proficiency Test, and the SAT results, 30%, the 2011 and 12 graduation rate and college enrollment data, as well as student-to-teacher ratio. Of the top 20 ranked districts by this independent group, Stafford's the only district that was identified in DIRG F. So we certainly have a reason to be proud of that. And as I said, realtors have asked us for the link to this article. Now let's take a look at some of the challenges and strategies that we faced. One of our challenges is moving from sustainability to actually moving forward. And our strategy there would be to educate the community on the impact of a level service budget on student outcomes, and I hope to be able to provide some of that understanding to you tonight. As I already indicated, referencing, the Did You Know video at the beginning, for students starting a 4-year technical or college degree, half of what they learn in their first year of study will be outdated by the 3rd year of study. So again, we want to make sure that we are addressing that. Quickly, again, available on the website is the impact of previous budget cuts. We've lost an English language learner teacher, and again, you can see the impact there. Reduction in preschool slots, reduced reading intervention in primary and elementary schools. We've eliminated K-8 summer school for 2 consecutive years. We've had a lot of restrictions on use of grant funding. The federal government and state is becoming more rigid, if you will, in the use of our funds. We have some difficulty addressing the needs of gifted and talented students. While we're obligated to identify children that are gifted and talented, school districts are not obligated to provide programming for them. But we recognize that this is a need, and we've received a lot of parent input and interest in this area. Extension of textbook replacement cycle. Rather than staying on our regular cycle, we're saying, well, we'll postpone those books for another year or 2. And of course, elimination of staff and programs. We also had a reduction in administrator at Staffordville School last year. Reduction of clerical support. The decentralization of central office staff was a reduction. And we've had additional reductions in instructional safety and technological investment. So we really do need to shift from sustainability to moving forward. Declining enrollment, can't hide behind that. We need to explore options to recruit and retain students and establish a study committee to analyze declining enrollment. This was a study, the graph of done by NESDEC, and they do provide these projections to folks using a formula. On January 12, 2015, our enrollment reflected 1,592 students. We've been monitoring that every month. And the current approved budget, I'd like to point out again, reflects a net reduction of 7.2 FTE or full-time staff. Something that folks don't realize in our community is that while we're so focused on declining enrollment and students choosing to go to other schools, that we forget that we have additional financial responsibility for a number of these students. As of October 1st, 2014, we had 1,586 students enrolled in our public schools. In addition to these students, however, the Board of Ed was responsible for another 190 students. We're responsible to provide tuition and transportation for students who attend outplaced facilities. Transportation only for students who attend state technical schools. Tuition, transportation, and special education services for students who attend Rockville Bowen. Tuition and special ed services for students who attend magnet schools. Nursing staff and transportation for students who attend St. Edward's School. And I'd like to point out that the number of students attending magnet schools this year as compared to last year nearly doubled. And this increase is reflected in the 500 line, and I actually gave you the exact monetary value on that, the handout that you got this evening. It's no secret that special education costs consume a portion of our budget, so we thought it might be helpful for you to actually see some of those numbers. The cost for our outplacements in special ed is $1,374,000, which consumes 4.94 of the budget. We do have additional special ed costs. Of course, we provide programming and services for a number of students in district. So we have $3,155,322, or 11.34% of the budget. So our total special ed costs are enumerated there at about 16.28% of the budget. I also indicated at the bottom that some of the costs are reimbursed by the state, known as the excess cost grant, and that's based on a complex formula, which is not estimated, which is only estimated, until it's actually finalized in May. So as we work through this process, that becomes a struggle for the town and for the school to actually identify how much money we might anticipate. Based on our current data, our state reimbursement for the 14-15 school years estimated at $313,600, and we provided that report to the Board of Finance. Another challenge we have is our over-reliance on in-kind services to support students. In-kind services are those where people don't charge, our booster clubs, our PTO, PTA, PI, and volunteers. And our strategy there would be to expand partnerships and continued exploration of other funding sources. And lastly, economic instability is certainly a challenge for all of us, and the best strategy to address that is long-range planning. With that being said, we have thought quite a bit about a multi-year timeline in terms of addressing those challenges, coming up with strategies. And so this is kind of a draft in terms of what we're looking at. For 15-16, our hope would be to develop a plan to address declining enrollment and have conversations about shared services and possibly facilities with the town. You can see the projects in the lower left-hand corner would be to develop goals, address issues collaboratively. Again, this is a town school district effort. Communicate progress, and also consider the solar and geothermal projects, which there are a number of folks volunteering their time to help us improve our energy sources and savings. And then you can see that the following year, 16-17, we'd be having a look at, initial cost outlay. One of our administrators often is heard saying, to save money, you have to spend money. So we might have to be looking at that initially. And then 17-18, consider what those next steps would be. The next section is sources of funding and spending for students. What you see here is noting that there are 49 grants in the last school year, 13-14 school year, which actually comprise more than a third of the total budget. When I say total, we're talking about town and school district. I think people assume when they look at that per pupil expenditure of $15,000, you're thinking, taxpayers are contributing $15,000 to pay for that child's education. That's not the case. That number is actually calculated through for a report called an ED001 and other sources the state and town have to report. And in actuality, the local property taxes support revenue sources, other revenue sources, they are 65% of the budget. So we do have a list of the grants which we are eligible for there. We work really hard to identify funding sources, and we're fortunate in our district that we have some staff that are excellent grant writers. Actually spoke to one person. I said, when you retire, you might consider consulting for school districts and towns in grant writing, because we've been pretty successful in that. Education spending per student is to what I was referring when I suggested this reflects that we spend approximately $15,000. All those lines represent a school district in Connecticut, but of course there's not enough room on that graph to list all of them. So again, while nearly $15,000 is expended per student, that doesn't mean that it's costing our taxpayers $15,000 to support that student's education. What actually is considered in that calculation are all the grants we receive. I hope that you've seen on our website, we do have articles on occasion. Last year, you know that we were the recipient of a $500,000 technology grant. For this current year, we're the recipient of almost $466,000 security grant. Those grants, which, by the way, we get those awards based on our superior grant writers, as well as our community's needs, actually drive that per pupil expenditure up. So it's important for people to keep that in mind. But that's what That's how that is calculated. This is a comparison of Stafford to other districts. And you can see that the funding from the state in here, in this particular graph, favors Stafford. You know, some folks refer to this as the equalization grant, and it really is the state's effort to try to equalize or level the playing field. So it takes a look at our needs in comparison to others' needs, uses this formula to determine how much money we should be entitled for in terms of that revenue source. And by the way, the ECS, the Education Cost Sharing Grant, is the largest revenue source for us. What this depicts is that actual kind of level funding. We have not really seen a substantial increase in the ECS funding for years. Where you see that dip, that's from that AIR grant. And it's hard for the folks in the back to see, but that does include the stabilization funding. So while we were awarded the stabilization funding, it really just helped us maintain that line, even though our ECS funding went down that year. So you really didn't see much of a dip. But this becomes a concern for all of us, because if this formula continues in this light, the burden will be placed on taxpayers. This is simply a slide that shows the relationship between Stafford and how it receives the highest level of the state ECS funding in the Tallinn County. And down in that bottom right-hand corner, we're actually providing you with the actual calculations. Comparative school cost. In 2013-14, the school budget of $26,932,401, less the ECS grant of nearly $10 million, is almost $17 million that was supported by the taxpayers. So again, I want you to have an idea about how that works. I'd also like to remind folks that at the end of the last school year, the Board of Ed returned $59,810 to the town, because we had met our obligation, paid all of our bills, and so the money goes back to the town. In addition, at the conclusion of the 13-14 school year, there was $291,740 left in the excess grant cost fund. These funds are supposed to be targeted to meet our special education obligations, and in case we don't have enough in our budget. And so this may ultimately be used by the Board of Finance to offset town and school budgets for the 15-16 school year. If we don't need it this year, then it can be transferred into a revenue fund. Again, our need, this slide shares with you the information regarding 2012. Stafford had a 31% population who was eligible for either free or reduced meals. As of January 2015, our count was already up to 34%. So you can see the need of our district continues. The picture there is a grant award, which is going to buy a cooler for the middle school, as well as some exercise bikes. So that was with the Dairy Council. And then just quickly, the last section is some financial details. There's the budget proposal, which you also have on your handout. The increase totals $912,705, or 3.39%. And what I would share with you folks is that my initial proposal was slightly higher than that. But then after continuing to analyze the budget, we realized we needed to calculate a little bit more into excess cost, but then we could back out some from dues and fees. This is a breakdown, again, available on our website. Shares the approved, the proposed, the difference, and what that difference includes. So there are 2 slides there with different budget lines. What folks we thought might be most interested in, or some of what they'd be interested in, is the staffing adjustments. I mentioned earlier some of the trade-offs in terms of taking a look at declining enrollment and efficiencies. And our budget here, the Board of Ed approved budget, reflects a reduction of 2.4 FTEs, or full-time teachers. This is a special education teacher at the middle school, an instructional support teacher at the elementary school, and the .4 is a social studies teacher at the high school. Now if you look down at the bottom, because the cohort 8th grade going into 9th grade is much larger, we are eliminating the .4 social studies teaching position, and we're actually reinstating that to a full-time. So also there is a Staffordville leadership position. Mrs. Paulset has been doing a phenomenal job overseeing 2 schools, but it really is a job for 2 principals, being there every day. I think folks have already spoken out at our community forums about how positive she is, but they really do feel the need to have a principal in each building, and we did indicate this was a 1-year solution. Again, the social studies teacher I already mentioned, and I talked a little bit earlier about providing opportunities for students. We actually met with the music department who presented data over the last 2 years in terms of how our instrumental music program is growing, starting at the elementary school. We're not losing those students. Those students that are recruited are continuing into the middle school, so our program is growing. So this here reflects, again, a .5, the addition of a .5 music program. Again, providing opportunities for students in Stafford. If you're a .5, you're not entitled to benefits, so this is strictly salary. And then also non-affiliated, because it's not part of a member of a bargaining unit, an intervention specialist is being proposed at .67, that's $25 a week, again, no benefits, to provide what we call survey interventions for the teachers. Actually, it would be 2, but we're looking to have a transfer of 1 current intervention specialist to meet the needs of those students in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 interventions. In the last couple of slides, we have budget by object account. For those of you that are interested in this, 82% of the budget is in 8 object accounts listed above. The next slide is by budget line. And the reason we wanted to share this with you is because we're quite pleased. Since we have been self-insured, there's less cost to the district and the town. We share this plan together. We have an insurance committee. And last year, the increases, or excuse me, for 13-14, the insurance increase in our premiums was 23.5%, which was huge. We had some folks that were taking home less money that following year because of that increase. For 14-15, this year, the increase in our premiums was 8.5. And I'm pleased to announce, and so is Lisa Rich and other people on the committee, Sam, that we are actually going to be fine with a 2.5% increase in our medical and 0 in our dental for next year. So we haven't seen that in a number of years. The medical insurance increase, again, a person-by-person analysis, and that's actually where we captured some of those costs in this last reduction before the Board of Ed approved, rather than this is how many people we had in September. We actually did, like I said, a 1-by-1, person-by-person. This 0.63% increase, and dental 5.05. But again, our overall increase in our budget is 2.5 and 0, and you'll hear the same thing from the town. And then to wrap up, we provided you with the glossary. Once again, we put it in the back of the presentation this time. And the budget process timeline is there as well. See, it took us a while to actually move through our budget process. We didn't have enough room on the screen. But here we are, public hearing March 9th. The first of 2.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on the Board of Education budget? I don't see any hands up, so we'll move on if I don't see any hands up. Any questions from members of the board? We'll have, obviously, we'll have opportunities to discuss this later. So. All right, okay, thank you. All right, I should have said this, but let me state for the record that the members of the Board of Finance here this evening are regular members Brian Bagley, Richard Dobson, Ted Rummel, myself, the Chairman Edward Muska, and alternates Steve Garrick and Michael Piper. All right, we'll now go to the Board of Selectmen. The first selectman will present the Board of Selectmen budget.
thanks everybody for coming out this evening. We'll get that presentation loaded into the laptop. I'll talk briefly and recap some of what Dr. Connolly had discussed. When we started the budget presentation for the budget season, what I asked was I told the department heads to give me a total with a level services budget, meaning give me a total budget, the minimum increase that was needed to maintain the services that we have now. And then give me another column with everything that you would like to add. Well, I got about $10,000 worth of things they wanted to add, about $400,000 worth of stuff that they said was mandatory to add. So myself and the board of selectmen, we went through and we cut down quite a bit of that stuff. So I asked the town clerk and the tax collector to pass out the cover sheet, which is itemized for each department. And we can go over that. That's good. You're review. Okay, what I'd like to do first is kind of a year review to look at what we did over the last year. Our accomplishments, our major projects. Town clerk's office, town and staff clerk's office joined the Connecticut Town Clerk's Portal to add an online resource and document management system that allows the public to search the town's land records and property maps. We did a state library conservation grant we applied for and was awarded a state conservation grant for the preservation of records. The project monies were used for the preservation of the 1960 birth, marriage, and death records. Town planning and building department implementation of a new computer system and new building permits are being entered into a computer system. The system tracks all new permits electronically and emails the permit holders statuses as the building process progresses. Building permit process is scheduled to be further streamlined in the future by providing the system online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This will save the homeowners and contractors from routine permits from having to come down. They can just pull a routine permit online, get it approved, and start their work. As a member of the Capital Region Council of Governments, the town staff and planning department entered into a partnership with the Geographical Information System mapping. Building maintenance. We have the town clerk's land records vault and ventilating system to aid and ensure the preservation of vital documents. Refurbish the public bathrooms in the town hall, refurbish the office in the senior center. Replacement of consumable items with the town buildings such as lights, outlets, filters, maintenance of all the building finishes and painting, and maintenance of the building HVAC, heating and air conditioning systems. We don't call contractors to come in and make any repairs. We do all the repairs in-house unless it's something that's just totally out there that Bruce can't handle. Bruce does all our boiler maintenance, all of our boiler repairs, changes all of our controls out. So we try to save money by not calling contractors and doing all the work ourselves. Public Works, and Mr. Zulik's going to get a little bit more in depth into the Public Works aspect of what was completed this year a little later on. Major projects, road resurfacing, road reconstruction. The pothole patrol used 90 tons of patch material to fill major potholes last year. We used 675 tons of asphalt for curbing and other road repairs. Snow removal from roads, well, everybody knows how that turned out this year. Snow removal from roads, town parking lots, and sidewalks. We used a new product called Ice Be Gone. This is a treated road salt with multiple benefits. It's less corrosive to the vehicles, and it's engineered to actually stick to the roads when it's applied. we completed the reconstruction of the transfer station. Energy and environmental projects. The solar projects that were completed this year was the community center, the high school, Stafford Elementary School, and the West Stafford Elementary School. We purchased under a grant a electric vehicle charging station, which is located at the town hall. And national publications. The town is starting to receive national attention in the energy projects we have completed and the projects planned and not yet completed. Okay, this is services to the residents. Department of Family Services. The town of Stafford operates the Family Services Department to promote this and strengthens the resiliency of individuals, couples, families, and others in our community throughout providing timely strength-based counseling. The Department of Family Services in Stafford is open to all residents within the town of Stafford. In addition to funding from the town of Stafford, funding is also achieved through grants from the state of Connecticut. In 2014, the Department of Family Services held 5,573 counseling sessions. Department of Social Services. Department of Social Services is the department that, combined with the senior center, it services our senior daily lunches. The numbers based on 2013 was 6,508 congregate meals served here at the senior center. Meals on Wheels delivered 16,873. Food share. Residents made 1,747 visits to the community center for food distribution. The farmers market coupon books, there was 400 coupon books distributed to senior residents. Transportation, the community bus rides was 1,508, and medical transport was 456. The youth center, there was 345 youth registered for 2,652 visits to the youth center. More in the Department of Social Services. Municipal agent for the elderly, the staff assisted with 1,240 inquiries for multiple services. Renters rebates processed 130 applications. Utility assistance, 515 households were assisted with various utility issues. Back to school, 101 students assisted with back to school supplies. A special thank you to the Salvation Army, the Stafford Thrift Shop, and American Sleep Bearing. Thanksgiving, with the assistance of volunteers, holiday dinners were supplied to 96 households within Stafford, and Christmas, there was 150 households supplied with food gifts or food and gifts. Protective Services. The Protective Services has 4 distinct departments. These departments protect the quality of life of the residents and the visitors within the town. Stafford Resident Trooper's Office, Stafford Ambulance, Stafford Fire Department, and West Stafford Fire Department. Stafford Resident Trooper's Office. In the year ending 2014, responded to 10,436 calls for officers within the town of Stafford. 146 motor vehicle collisions within the town. Police Explorers, one of the Explorers is in the current State Police Academy. One of our past Explorers is actually in the Police Academy now. And this is the 3rd year in a row with no fatal motor vehicle accidents. Stafford Ambulance. Stafford Ambulance responded to 1,305 calls during 2014. 1 ambulance is undergoing a refurbishment. When the refurbishment is complete, the 3 vehicles will be back in rotation. Stafford Fire Department responded to 675 calls last year. West Stafford Fire Department responded to 806 calls last year. New companies in the town of Stafford. New companies in the town of Stafford, according to the registration in the town clerk's office, was Descus Landscaping and Construction, American Lawn Company, Campbell Woodworking and Home Repair, and CVS in February of 2015. For a detailed breakdown of the budget and the line items, you can go to the Town of Stafford website. Lower left-hand corner, there's a button that says Budget Information. All the historic information for the last 3 or 4 years is there, all the historic presentations. And we will also have this presentation. The itemized budget and the breakdown by line item can be reviewed there also. It's all in PDF format. And now I'll move to the budget presentation. If it can go wrong, it's gone wrong. Thursday, I had a hard drive crash in my computer. Today, I totally lost the file. The computer gremlin stole it. So we're going to go with this presentation, and we're going to see how close this is to my final draft. The following is an overview of each department and compares to, I'm sure this is 15-16. This is 14-15. Okay, bear with me. Even the front is wrong too. Okay, I'm going to go down the cover sheet here while he tries to get the presentation. Hold on, your laptop, yes, please. Okay, Board of Selectmen budget is up 0.59%. For a total of $3,715. Probate court is level funded. IT and technology is down 7.4%. Register of voters is up 4.48%. And as he gets his presentation going, I'll zip back to it really quick so I can get some of the highlights as to what actually some of the increases are. Elections for the town clerk is down 25% or $1,000. Board of Finance is up $200. Assessors is down $97,000. The reason for that large reduction is last year's budget, we had $102,000 budgeted for the reevaluation. That wasn't budgeted this year. Board of Assessment Appeals is up $90. Tax collector is up $1,865. Treasurer, $6,560. Town council, $6,000. These are increases. Town clerk, $1,295. Buildings, down $31,120. Fuel for all buildings, up $3,000. The reason that there's an increase is we added the transfer station a full year of propane. I am anticipating this line to go down when we negotiate and lock in our rates for fuel oil. Fixed charges, up $39,587. In that fixed charges is workers' compensation and healthcare insurance. As Dr. Collins stated, that our health insurance premiums were only raised by 2.5% this year. outlay. Capital outlay is up by $30,078. Judgments and losses is down by $10,000. Safety and protection is up by $8,160. Emergency services. Police protection. Police protection is down $65,845. Some of that savings was from our restructuring last year. We have younger troopers, we have troopers at lesser pay, and also we pulled back some of what we budgeted for overtime because we are saving money. Emergency services are up $10,391. Building and zoning department is up $54,415. That has an increase in salaries, it has an increase in office supplies. What they're looking to do in the building department is to take, currently the filing system that's there and has been there for years is you have health department files, you have building department files, and you have zoning files. So if somebody goes to the building department to try to find a file, we're migrating over to a computer system so we can, moving forward, everything's going to be organized in a computer and we'll be able to add stuff as we go over the years to get everything digitalized. But currently when you go to find something, you're going into 3, 4, 5, or even 6 filing cabinets to find the files on one house. So what they're looking at doing is they're looking at taking basically all the files out of the filing cabinets, refile everything, combining everything into one. And believe it or not, it's about $3,000 for folders. Not that we'd expect to spend $3,000 for folders, but we estimated if we had to replace every single folder there, it would be about $5,000. So they're looking at taking and refiling every single piece of paper in the building department. Transfer station operations is up $35,110. Okay, let me back up on this. Fire marshal. Fire marshal's up $5,170. That increase is subject to contractual negotiations. The transfer station is up $35,110. There's a $50,000 request in the transfer station to actually rebuild the wall that's next to the containers for the recycling bins. So without that $50,000 request, the transfer station would actually be down by $20,000. $15,000. Okay, general highways, there's a $181,326 requested increase. This line increase is mainly due to the additional request in equipment repair and paving. This will be addressed by the Director of Public Works in his presentation. Town aid roads is down $317. There's a reduction in state funding. Recreation Commission is up $10,000. This is an increase due to the custodial services for youth basketball, risk management training, and repairs to the Stafford High School scoreboard. Parks is up $35,000. There's an increase in salaries subject to contract negotiations, along with turf management, playscape, and backstop repairs to compromise those increases. This will be addressed more in depth by the Director of Public Works. Holidays, there's an increase of $2,000. We increased Summerfest and increased for additional grade markers for the veterans. We've had somebody that's been going through and has found that a lot of veterans from the War of 1812 that were not marked, so he's requested that we buy placards for those graves. Economic development is up $3,000. It's an increase for programs and marketing, along with redevelopment research and outreach. Accounts Conservation Commission had no change. Debt service was up $18,734. Debt service is the lines that are our bonds and our interest on our bonds. Pollution abatement is down by $5,000. Health services is down by $270. Health services is the fee that we pay to the North Central District of Health. Community center is up by $76,330. This increase reflects the possible contract negotiations and an increase of $70,000 for a new bus for the seniors and disabled. 80% of that $70,000 increase is going to be reimbursed by the federal government through a transportation grant. Stafford Family Services is up $12,498, increase due to coming up contract negotiations along with extended hours and a loss of $12,000 from the state aid. Transfer out fund is down by $15,000. And that's it, but I want to back up a little bit here to the beginning and hit some high spots. The meeting schedule for all the Board of Finance meetings, that's also on the website under budget information. Board of Selectmen's budget is up $3,000, as I said. There's a small increase in salaries, and there's an increase in fees to Capital Region Council of Governments and the Council of Small Towns. The IT department was down by $8,270 due to the completion of our capital projects for fiber optics and the new municipal phone systems and a reduction in computer replacements. The register of voters, it was up $1,800. That was a result of electronic poll book software and laptops for the polling stations. As you can see, there's a lot of typographical errors in here because this one was a draft. Board of Finance is up by $200 for a slight increase in administrative cost. The assessor's office, I'd explained that with the reevaluation. The Board of Assessment Appeal is up by $90. Tax collector, slight increase for wages and office supplies. Town treasurer, town treasurer, that reflects an increase in labor costs that potentially could be negotiated. Town council, that reflects an increase in legal services that are going to be required with 3 labor contracts coming up this year for negotiation. Town clerk is up $1,295. It's a small salary increase. Buildings are down $31,120. The largest decrease was $41,250 in building maintenance and repairs. There's an increase in salaries to reflect additional hours to the existing work schedule. What I'd like to explain and make clear to everybody, when you download, if you go online and you look at the itemized budget line item by line item, when you look at line items for salaries, you're going to see there's 10% increase, there's 6% increase, there's 8% increase. Those are not the hourly or salary wage increases for any of the employees. That is worst case scenario, going into negotiations with 3 unions, and on top of that, what I'm trying to do is increase some employees from 35 to 37 and a half hours, and some employees to 40 hours, and open the town hall on Fridays. I figured it out, took my estimated negotiations, worst case scenario with the labor unions, and extended hours to open the town hall on Friday. If we had 2.5 hours a week, we could open it half a day on Friday, and the actual difference is approximately $30,000 to open the town hall on Fridays. Last year at the budget hearings, we heard a lot of people requesting the town hall be open. So I figured it out, and the cost would be about an additional $30,000. And I think I pretty much explained everything from this point forward. Does anybody have any questions?
How many companies have actually left the town? I mean, you know, Peoples and the nursery, which was too big.
There's two that I know of, but as far as any small people that are close up enough, I don't know.
I was wondering statistically how we're doing with pre-foreclosures and foreclosures in comparison. I mean, I just put my address in Zillow.com, and they said my house would decrease because of all the foreclosures. So how are we doing in Stafford?
I don't have that information available tonight. I can research it and get back to you.
Yeah, well, I think it's something that maybe finance board should consider, you know, that there are a lot of foreclosures, pre-foreclosures. I have a friend who gets the Teamsters Union pension, and they're all getting letters how all of that's gonna be decreased. You know, I think we have to think about it. I don't know what the town is doing as far as that's concerned. With people moving in, moving out.
It's not just Stafford, it's the state of
Oh, plus,
Connecticut.
I agree with that, but how are we in standards with the other towns is what I'm asking.
Yeah, we can get that and have some information.
I just have two questions. The first one is it possible to make the font bigger there in any way so that we can read the line?
This evening,
Yes.
this will be posted on the website tomorrow, so everybody will have availability to it.
Okay, I can't even see it now. All right, the second question I had is, when you refer to the increase in the town council line, does that include just the town council or other law firms that are involved in the negotiations of contracts?
That would be other law firms that are involved. Particularly the reason the increase this year is for the labor attorney with the negotiation of three contracts.
Okay, can I just ask one other question? The increase in, for the safety services seems to be fairly small. And I just wondered, was it the feeling of the committee that you put together to deal with this, or did the people who are the fire chiefs and so forth, that was an adequate increase for their services?
The budget from the different departments, those budgets were submitted by the chiefs of the departments this year. I did put the committee together, and right now, what they are working on to be able to come to the Board of Finance with, by the time the committee got together, it was a little late in the budget preparation system, so what I kind of tasked them on was put together a 10-year comprehensive combined plan. Everybody had their individual plans, so what they're actually working on now to bring to the Board of Finance is a 10-year unified comprehensive
So
plan.
the yearly budget went on like it always did, with generated by the.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, and the majority of the increase there was insurance at the Ambulance Association for an increase in their insurance and building maintenance. They're going to take over the building maintenance, approximately $8,500 of the downtown station.
Did you want to have Mr. Zullo complete the presentation?
Actually, Mr. Zulik has his own presentation.
Oh, all right, I thought it was part of the Board of Selectmen presentation, so.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, any further questions or comments on the Board of Selectmen budget? I guess as part of that, Richard Zulik's going to make a presentation as to the Public Works and Highway Department.
Hi, my name is Rick Zulik, for any of those who have not had an opportunity to meet me. How's that?
Much better.
Rick Zulik is my name, I'm Director of Public Works. Yeah, for those who have not had a chance to meet me in the past, I appreciate the opportunity to make this presentation so that I can try to help you better understand what we do at the Department of Public Works. I'm going to start with a little bit of review of, what we do during the course of the year. There's a lot of things that we do that people don't understand. Certainly, snow removal is one of the things that is at the forefront of our minds. We do a lot of snow removal. This year is certainly no exception. This year's been particularly challenging. We had a good start to the year. By Christmas, I was thinking we're going to be in great shape, but lo and behold, in January, the snow started, and I don't have to explain the balance of that story to you. We've been really challenged. There's no place to put the snow. We've done a lot of trucking of snow. We've done a lot of snow blowing. We've used our grader to push banks back to wing plow. We're building the wing plow in-house. It's almost done so that we can continue to push banks back and have a place to put the snow. We have brought out our snow blower, and it's done a pretty good job. I'm pretty impressed that it's still in one piece. Mike Marinelli's been running it, and he's done a wonderful job. He's really careful with it. Certainly spent a lot of time on Main Street. This is West Main Street. We've just been bucketing, loading, and trucking snow off-site. So that's been challenging, that's for sure. I'm sure you guys have gotten to see it. The borough, lots of snow removal out of the borough. We've cleaned Main Street 5 times. That's a lot. I mean, we usually clean Main Street when people are having problems opening up their doors. And we've just had to do it over and over and over this year. Our highway department certainly does a lot of drainage work. You see us out there rebuilding catch basins, replacing cross culverts, all the drainage things that go with the Public Works Department are certainly no exception. We assist, work with parks on Main Street beautification. We get involved with evictions and blight cleanups. This year we mixed 1,800 tons of our new salt product, which is called Ice Becoming, which Rich talked about. It's a magnesium chloride mix with a coating of beet juice and other sugars that really help to reduce the amount of corrosion that we're seeing on our vehicles. Molasses is probably the biggest coating that's on it, and if you walk into our salt shed, you just want to eat the stuff because it smells like molasses. We've been really happy with the product. It does. It's a sticky product, and it sticks to the roads better. So I'm really happy with that. We purchased our new mower, and I hope all you had a chance to see it out there working. We pretty much hit the entire town this year, which we're pretty happy with. In the past, my first couple of years, we were lucky to get half the town. We certainly do a lot of tree work. I'm sure you see us out there doing such. Our equipment's getting tired, but we're still living along here. And we've got to be available for any type of emergencies that avail themselves. Waterway maintenance, and certainly paving, curbing, and patching. In the Parks Department, we do all our playing field maintenance. We're responsible for upkeep for all the games that the kids get involved in. This skating pond is a pretty big success this year. We've had to keep that pushed back and available. We do all the playground maintenance at all the schools. Get involved in Summerfest. Transfer station. Well, certainly a big year for the transfer station. On December 8th, we had our grand opening, and we're happy to be in full operation at this point. This is a pretty gut-wrenching picture, but I had to put it up here to remind you guys what it looked like. That's our new Peterbilt. This is the Packer that we've used that you guys remember. Just a total loss. Just really happy to have it behind us. Pretty successful venture, and we're quite proud of it. Just as a little bit of review, the rebuild of the transfer station pictures. There's a picture of the siding and Packer that came in on a tractor trailer. We had to build a new base, which we engineered for the Packer. It's a state-of-the-art Packer. We can now run that machine from in the office from behind a glass window. We run it remotely. It's a safer, more effective operation. With the old one, the guys couldn't actually see into the trailer, so they used to rip holes in the side of the trailers all the time with this Packer because they were kind of doing it by the braille method, if you will. And we now can see in the trailer from the glass office, and they can do a really nice job packing. We're running heavier loads and lots more product in them. There's a picture of the Packer almost done, and there's a picture of the Packer in operation. We have a security and fire alarm system. There's a picture of the panels. We have a fire alarm built into it. We have security cameras that record about 4 months worth of video. So if there's any problem, if there are any accidents, there's any theft or issues that we want to review, we have a total, I believe, of 9 cameras that are inside and outside the building. We know who comes and who goes. We have cards now that we can swipe that open the building and shut off the alarm system, so the system knows who came in, when they came in, and when they left. For the highway department, our completed road projects, we did 8 chip seals, 8 roads that were chip sealed. 1 road we did with a pavement overlay and shim. We crack sealed 7 roads, and we put down 90 tons of road patching material. That's a pretty alarming number. These guys do it by hand, shovel by shovel. There are roads are, I don't have to tell you what's happening in our roads. They're really losing it quickly. This is a list of the roads that we crack sealed. Total cost of a little over $11,000. You can read it, I don't have to go through them. I like the crack sealing. We did some chip sealing prior year, and some of the bigger cracks, water still got under and into the roads. With the crack sealing, when we go through and chip seal over the top, it really does seal them well. I'm very happy with the outcome. The chip sealing itself is all the roads that were prior listed, except Gale Drive was not crack sealed. Gale Drive actually had some pretty good cracks in it that we fixed with asphalt, hot asphalt. Total cost here of the chip sealing, a little over $78,000, and there's a review from last year's presentation. I know a lot of you really want to see me working on the roads that are the worst of them, but we do have a fair number of roads in town that are actually in pretty fair condition, and it really behooves us to protect those roads. This is how we do it. The cost per mile is just, minute by comparison. And, engineering 101 again tells us that you got to take care of your best roads first. The bad roads that are shot, that have to be completely rebuilt, they're going to be no worse next year or the year after. It's not going to cost us a penny more. These roads are gone. They have to be completely torn up, regraded, and repaved. So we'll get to them, but in the meantime, I think it's really important to take care of the good roads. In last year's presentation, I asked for $273,000 to overlay and shim Old Springfield Road, which is in really horrible condition. As you know, the budget got reduced, and not money ever came through. So we used what money we had, and I made the decision to put together a shim crew or a paving crew. We do have a paving box, and we revived it, and it's really not been used much in the past, but I'm proud to say that we truly do have a paid-in crew. Our town guys have been trained. It was a bit of a learning process. We were under a lot of criticism as we started and worked our way through Old Springfield Road, but it came out pretty good, and it was a compromise. I mean, by no means do I want to imply that we did the $273,000 job. But we fixed the worst parts. We overlaid and shimmed, and we took the real bad bumps and such out of it. The good news is that we did it for $45,000. It's not a permanent fix. I'm not implying that it is, but and you could argue that we're throwing good money after bad. I really would like to get in there and fix these roads properly, but for $45,000, if any of you are familiar with Old Springfield Road, we made a huge difference. I mean, you can drive down it now, and it's all beautiful. In terms of our current status, we started out with a total budget of a little over $250,000. We spent 10 on patching, 11, as I indicated earlier, on crack sealing. Chip sealing, we spent 78. And as I just said, we spent 45 on the overlay, the patching, if you will, on sections of Old Springfield Road. We have 107,000 remaining, and that is in the budget for springtime. We'll use it for patching, emergencies, and we'll continue overlaying like we did on Old Springfield Road. On Cooper and Leonard Road are the next ones. There's some really, really bad spots on those roads. And I'm just going to work them, we're going to work along until the money's gone. So I'll do the best I can. So in terms of our proposal for the 15-16 year, for the highway department, the line item 7,200, I'd like to continue and expand our maintenance program. I'm asking for an increase to 300,000. There's no increase requested for all these items. I'll review them. You can see them. For 3315, which is our maintenance of trucks and equipment, we're almost on target. In this current year, we've got 4 months to go. Just as a reminder, we perform virtually all our work in-house. We send very, very little out. I would like to ask for a slight increase in this line item from 100,000 to 108 to just include the cost of rising cost of parts and such. You all know that you just can't buy what you could last year for the same amount of money. 3315 is used to care for a lot of vehicles. We do not only DPW, but the transfer station vehicles, parks vehicles, senior bus, medical car, facilities, the building inspector's car, fire marshal, limited service for the police vehicles, and we do facilities department and IT vehicles. So these guys in the garage are in big demand, and they work really hard, and they only have $100,000 to buy everything they need to get them through the year. It's they work hard to scrimp and scrape every penny they can, because if they're not careful, we run out of money real early. Proposing a new line item this year, and it's intended to cover projects that are outside that day-to-day maintenance. It includes refurbishing projects to extend the life expectancies of a lot of the old equipment that we've got. I'm not asking for new equipment, I'm asking for money to take care of the old stuff. I'm requesting $40,000 on that item. We don't have a number because it's got to be accepted by the finance board. but for today's purposes, we'll call it 300 XXXX. With that line item, I'd like to be able to fund the use of a sandblaster, which we can rent next summer. We'd like to sandblast and paint our lowboy trailer, which you can see in the lower left corner. No, the lowboy's in the next slide, I'm sorry. And then the dump trailer, which is in the lower left. We asked for funding last fiscal year for all this stuff and did none of it because it just wasn't funded. But our payloaders are they're rotting before our eyes. The vendors are rotting off them. The side panels are rotting off. These pictures don't do them justice, but trust me when I tell you that they still run pretty well, but they're just turning into rust buckets. If I can't get to them and sandblast them and paint them and protect them, we're going to be looking at new payloaders real soon because they're just rusting into pieces. With this line item, we'd like to rebuild the backhoe box that we use to suck out the catch basins every year. The box is rusted and the truck is not usable. It was taken offline last year, middle of the summer, and we didn't have the money to repair the box, so we used the older machine and we did the best we could, but we really need to get that rebuilt. I'd like to build a log truck from currently owned equipment. We have a loader that you saw in the tree work picture. It's on a very, very old truck that's just not roadworthy. I'd like to put that log loader on the Kenworth that we used at the transfer station. It's not currently registered and we just use it as a yard vehicle. But I'd like to put that on it so that we can use it to handle brush in emergency if we have another hurricane or anything like that. It would be a very handy tool to handle pipe, stumps, to work at the brush pile at the transfer station and to just be able to pick up down trees and such along the roadways. Not a lot of cost for that. We have all the stuff. We just need to put it together. We need to rebuild the forklift motor. We have an old forklift that will serve us well, but it's very hard to start now because the motor is just shot. We bought a new service truck last year, and we need to put boxes on it, and we'd like to put tools and such on it so that we can have a mobile service truck that can go out and take care of our equipment on site. We have most of the stuff. We have a compressor and a welder and that sort of stuff, but we just want to be able to fund, putting it together on the back of the truck. And we have significant body work to do on two of the line plow trucks that are just real rusty. So again, this new line item was proposed last year, and it never was approved. So none of the work got done, but this is stuff that we really need to do. And I know it's a lot of money, but we've got to take care of this stuff. 3310 is highway garage equipment and supplies. And I'd like to, I'm asking for a new 10,000 gallon fuel tank. We have a 3,000 gallon tank at the transfer station, and we keep running out of fuel because we are supplying fuel to the fire department, to the ambulances, to all our vehicles. And we can go through 3,000 gallons in a week. So in bad weather, I'm always on edge thinking that we're going to run out of fuel, and we have run out of fuel. We're buying it for a great price, but we need to have more storage. So I'm asking for that to be funded. We're looking for some Public Works software so we can do scan tool. We can run our scan tools and get diagrams and specs and repair manuals. That's the one thing that we do have to send out is we don't have the computer capability to evaluate and reset these these new trucks that are totally run by computers. So we need some software and some tools that I'm asking for here. Asking for GPS. We have an opportunity to get GPS systems for all our vehicles. It's a pretty, I think the cost is pretty reasonable. It's $20 per vehicle per month. And with that GPS, it would allow me to be able to track during snowstorms and such exactly where our vehicles are at all times. We've had a lot of problems with people that have called and said, you know, I have not seen a plow truck for 6 hours, no one's plowing my road. I know they've plowed the road. I mean, there's no way, it's just, they go round and round and round. It does take a while to get through, but with a GPS system, I will be able to say, the truck went through at 3:15 and 7:18, and, you know, he was, you know, I can have a record of what these guys are doing. It also enables me to make sure that they're behaving themselves. If people accuse us of driving too fast, I have a record of all that data with this system. It's a pretty neat system, and something that I'm very excited about. I think it'd be very useful for us. So all that combined results in a request for an increase from $30,000 to $74,000. Parks Department proposal. Looking for some increases. Summer help. We really need more help in parks, and I'm not asking for more employees. I'd love to get more employees, but I think if we can get some summer help, we can satisfy the needs and demands for our summer activities, which are many. Overtime. We've asked a lot of parks guys to help us with plowing over the course of the winter, and we're running out of money for overtime for these guys, so I'm asking for a $4,000 increase on that line item. Town beautification, we'd just like to do some flowers on Main Street. The backstops are for the two baseball fields above the football field and below the middle school. And that's the cost of the backstops. Field marking paint, it's getting more expensive every year. We ran out of money last year on that one. And I'm looking for some money for continuing ed. Our guys need to be certified to deal with pesticides, and they need to be certified to do a lot of the things that they've never had to in the past. So we're looking for some money there. And then we need to resurface the playscapes with a special material that will cost $7,000, and that's all the playscapes around town, Kelly Field, Hyde Park, and the schools. The transfer station proposal. We were looking for an increase of $1,500 for supplies. We ran out of money with the rebuild. We need some office supplies and office equipment that is not funded. So we're looking for a total of $3,500 there. Trash disposal has actually gone down 20. We've renegotiated our prices with the people in Chicopee that we haul to, and it results in actually a lower reduction in that line item. The biggie is the capital projects, which is the new retaining wall, and I'm asking for $50,000 for that retaining wall. It was a lot less last year, but the repair last year would have been a much simpler process. The walls deteriorated dramatically since. And then alarm monitoring, I talked to you about the alarm system. We have to pay a monitoring fee for that. This is a picture of the wall, and I don't think it really does justice, but these are our recycle bins, and this is where people stand to throw in. And you can see that the blocks have just totally deteriorated, and you know, we now have people that are standing over these walls that are 3/4 way gone. I have very serious concerns that in the spring, when things start to melt, we may have to close that area because of, it may become dangerous or overly dangerous. And that's it, thank you very much.
Any questions for the Public Works Department? Questions, comments? Yes, Ed.
No, I agree that town staff should, not just the town staff, I agree that Main Street should be clean of snow should be removed. But why is the cost borne by the taxpayer, the town staff, versus the state of Connecticut, seems to stay alone for the merchants on Main Street?
We do it for the merchants, and there is no funding that the state can provide for that sort of thing. We can certainly, we've asked in the past and got nothing. We can certainly try in the future, but if we wait for the state to do it, it's just not gonna
But
get
as
done.
a taxpayer, that's not fair that Big Y or CVS, that, they're removing snow on Main Street for the merchants. If it's a safety issue, the state should be doing it.
Yeah, well, I don't know that it is a safety issue at some point, because the road narrows. But I think that for us, we try to do it as part of an overall cleanup. We also do the town hall parking lot and, around, we do, and we get up into the borough as well.
Are the funds for that coming out of the borough budget? or
Yeah.
town budget?
The,
For the cleanup?
both, both, yeah.
Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Richards.
I don't have a question for Mr. Zulik per se, but perhaps one you can answer, Mr. Chairman. The two combined budgets, Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen, they were presented to the Board of Finance, I believe, last week.
I believe so, yes.
Could you tell me yet at this time what those budgets would translate into a mill increase over the current budget?
No, we could not tell you at this point. I mean, the purpose of the next month or so of examination of that is to try to get it into to shape. We have to balance the town revenues, we have to balance increased taxes from the increase in the grand list, and we have to balance other resources that we have. There are increases. Do you know what the increase in each budget is?
Well, it's slightly over 3% in each budget.
Well, in terms of dollars, do you know what that is?
No, I don't have it.
Well, I think the increase in the Board of Selectmen budget is 384, 288, is that correct? Is $384,288, is that correct? And if I recall from before, the increase in the Board of Education budget is about $920,000. But that doesn't, we can't, I can't translate that into tax increase until we've gone through the other figures.
Well, that's just a question that I wanted to see if you had that information as of yet.
What's that again, Mark?
I just wanted to see if you had that information as of yet.
No, we do not. We would have that over the course of the next several weeks.
And I look forward to addressing the individual line items over the next several weeks.
We will be, as I have indicated, I think there's a schedule out front, on the front table, which indicates at which night the Board of Finance will be discussing various items. But we are always welcome to have comments from the public at our meetings, so you will certainly have the opportunity to comment on any of those things.
Well, I'm looking forward to working with you gentlemen and ladies on the commission so that we can avoid having 5 budget referendums, which what was it, 4.5 to 5 months that our budget was approved for the current fiscal year.
All right.
And I sincerely hope that the Board of Selection and the Board of Ed would have come in with a little bit more of a conservative budget than over 3%, and not put the entire onus on the Board of Finance to try to make this all work.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Did you have another, I guess we're also, was there someone else who wanted to speak on the Board of Selectmen budget, or? No, all right. And then the next item we have is the library budget. Mr. Christopher Frank will, I believe, make the presentation for the library.
I have some screen,
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay.
a handout of what I'm going to present? Okay. I'm Christopher Frank. I'm the library director at Stockford Library. As you can see, the very first line, salaries part-time, 19%. What's going on there? Well, last year, we had a $29,000 cut to our budget, and that made it necessary to leave a position, a part-time library clerk position, unfilled. And the board is seeking, and I am seeking, to fill that position. So that position is the lion's share of that 19%. And I can talk more about that if anyone wants me to talk more about that. The other lines, salaries full-time is just a contractual increase. The FICA is based on the salary. Group health insurance, as it's been reported before, is 2.5%. Retirement increase is 1.97%. The longevity has gone up by 2.7% by contract. Postage, we're living at the same funding, $500. Maintenance, this is another area. I asked for this last year. I'm asking for it again this year. The town has a custodian, one custodian for the entire town. I believe it's 7 buildings. The custodian, it's nothing against the gentleman, but he's in the building less than 2 hours a day. It's a 17,000 square foot building, and there's no way that he can clean it. So I'm asking for that $4,000 onto the maintenance budget to see if we can get supplemental, like once a month or once every 6 weeks, to have a cleaning company come in and dust and vacuum. It's really needed. I just can't even explain it. It's very, very dusty and dirty in the library, even though the custodian does the best he can to get the high traffic areas and the bathrooms done. It's not sufficient. So I'm asking for that. The rest of the funding is flat as from last year. Continuing education is 1,000. Utilities is 20. Electricity is 23,000, and that's really a very specific number. We're going to just about hit 23 this year. Water is the same as it was last year at 560. The telephone is at 2544. The town hall has a new phone system, and I talked to the town IT director about getting a similar phone system for the library, but I don't know how long that project will take, or even if it will be done next year. So I put in this, that we're going to stay with the traditional phone company. Office and library supplies is 1,800. And by the way, a lot of these lines were reduced last year for budget cuts, and we've made the cuts work, and I'm not restoring them to the old levels. I'm just going to leave them what they're at now. Books, DVDs, and periodicals, I left at 32,000 because that directly affects the residents. Capital equipment we put back in case we need to put it towards like a bookshelf or a display case, something of that nature. And programs, I left the same funding at $1,800. So the total budget for the library as proposed is $531,171. And that represents a 6.46% increase. But the reason that is such a high increase is because we're trying to restore the library staffing to what it was 2 years ago. So I'm just trying to just restore the position. So, does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
So no questions for the library? Any questions on any part of the presentation this evening? Questions, comments? The floor is open. All right, before I close the public hearing, just so you understand the process, the Board of Finance will begin meeting every Wednesday and Monday to review these budgets and to eventually make recommendations as to what the budget should be for the upcoming fiscal year and what the mill rate will be as a result of that. We will be, I believe there was a handout that was passed out that indicated what we'll be discussing this Wednesday. We will be beginning our examination of the Board of Education budget, and next Monday we'll be beginning our examination of the Board of Selectmen budget. So, you are all welcome to attend and observe and participate that. In fact, it can be helpful to us. Okay, that being everything, I will conclude the public hearing. I think there's a short meeting of the Board of Finance scheduled after a short meeting, right?
I'm not going to Key West. I wish I was going to Key West. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I said I heard a second. That was easy.